Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Earth Month Business and Energy Google Hangout, hosted by Voces Verdes in partnership with Latino Giant and Latinovations. My name is Jose Aristimuño, and I am the founder of Latino Giant, a national organization that works with Latinos across the country to make sure that all Latinos reach the American dream. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance about Latino leadership in the new clean economy and the importance of focusing on energy efficiency, standards, renewable energy, investments, and talk about how Latinos are leading in all of these fronts, but also on what we can all be doing as a community to make sure that we can leave this earth a better place for generations to come. I'm excited to be here with an excellent panelist, an excellent lineup of panelists and experts. I'll start by talking about Edwin. We have Edwin Luevanos, co-founder of Citizen Energy. Hi, Edwin. Thank you for having us. Next, we have Giselle Acechecar, founder and CEO of Eco Rico. Hi, Giselle. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Nicolás Ibarguen, board member of Voces Verdes and director of the Planning Initiative. We have Veronica Juarez, director of government relations for LIV. Veronica, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And we also have Joe Sanchez. He's the COO of Solar. Thank you, Joe, for having us, for being with us today. And last but not least, we have Angela Barranco. Angela is in the Office of Public Engagement for the White House Council of Environmental Quality. Thank you so much, Angela, for being with us today. I know that you're short on time, so I want to ask you just to, give opening remarks, general things about what the president is doing in regards to climate change and why you think this is an important conversation that we need to be having among the Latino community.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate the time to at least say hello to everybody and tell you a little bit about the president's plan, but also I just want to say thank you for all the work that you guys are all doing on the ground. As individuals, as a community, we are all very, very important messengers, but I'll get to that in 1 second. The president has made climate one of his absolute top priorities. I think you can see from recent announcements that we've been making. From just a couple weeks ago, there was an amazing roundtable with the president and healthcare leaders and moms at a local hospital talking about the impacts of climate change on the communities, urban communities as well as rural communities. And the president is personally very invested in making sure that we take action on climate today. And so one of the biggest things that we've been focusing on is not only the domestic front. So when we talk about the Clean Power Plan, which I'm sure you're all thinking about, which is going to be finalized this summer, which is an opportunity for the states and for the country to sort of look at how we can reduce all of our greenhouse gas emissions to reduce our climate impact, but also the international conversation. And so many of you might have heard just recently the U.S. made an announcement with China talking about how important their reducing climate goals have been. And so, China has really taken the first step, but, even in just the last, month, Mexico came out as the first country in Latin America to join with the United States, China, and India to say that they're going to reduce their greenhouse gases. So there's a huge momentum happening both on the domestic front and on the international front, and Latinos are at the front of it. And so, I just want to say that we are a community that absolutely, are on the future and the forefront of this. And so, as part of our legacy as what the world that we're leaving to our children, tackling climate change is one of the most important things we can do today. And Voces Verdes leaders and all of you guys who are involved are doing this in your community, but are also absolutely the most important voices that we can have out there, as small business owners, as people who are on the forefront of sustainability, who are implementing renewables in the businesses and work that you do. You're going to hear a lot of negative information about how taking these steps to combat climate change are going to hurt your business, are going to impact your ability to pay your electricity bill. All of these things are things that you are all very extremely capable and important messengers at the local level, but also at the national level, to be a part of that conversation and say, actually, you know what? In my community and in the work I do, climate is something I can take it into account, and it's something that's actually very important for our future. So I say that all to say I know you guys have a pretty great program ahead of you, but I just want to really thank you for the work you're doing. And just say that the president is absolutely making this one of his hugest priorities. And I've been working very closely with Voces Verdes folks, and I know you have all. And I hope that we keep this dialogue going and keep it a conversation. But and then I'll just leave you with two quick things, and just say, one of the most important conversations is going to be through this July and through the international agreements that are happening towards the end of the year. And so the time is now to get engaged, and I know you're all thinking about this and going to talk a lot more about how you do that. But this is a perfect opportunity to bring in your colleagues, your friends, communicate through social media to get out the message that now is a time to really focus and pay attention. So thank you for the work you've done. Thank you for all the work you're going to do. And un placer, great to meet you all, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Angela. We appreciate you being here and starting this conversation. Thank you so much. So let's just get right to it. I think, let's start by a very simple question, but at the same time, I think it's important before we get into it, is what does sustainability and sustainable business practices mean to you, and why are they important to your business? I want to start with Veronica. Veronica, you being the Director of Government Relations for LIFT, I think this is something that I'm sure you guys talk about in your boardrooms and within their organization as a whole. So the question is, what does sustainability mean for you, and what does sustainability business practices mean for LIFT as a company?
Sure. Thank you, Jose, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So, this is really right at the core of who we are, what we're doing, what we're committed to long term. So many of you may already be really familiar with these statistics, but 80% of all seats in personal vehicles are empty at all times. Our mission and our goal at LIFT is that we can fill all of those empty seats with folks who are coming from common origins to common destinations. And we're already seeing this happen now with some of our newest products in California. So the ability to connect people safely and encourage them to share rides is really at the core of everything that we're committed to. And if we are able to do that, we know that even with a fraction of change in folks' behavior, we could see really dramatic differences in a reduction in traffic, congestion, greenhouse gas emissions, and all of those good things. So our co-founders have been really working on this issue since 2007, and it continues to be what we are committed to doing. So, to your question, we would not be a business if we weren't committed to creating a more sustainable future.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Now, I wanna get Joe Sanchez. I want to get your take on this, because obviously Veronica was talking about it from a bigger corporation perspective, but you, Joe, having Solar4 and having a startup and a small business, what is your take on this? What is sustainability to you, and what type of business practices do you apply in your business?
Sorry about that. Thank you. First of all, sustainable business practices are important across the board, because much of the energy consumption in the United States is by businesses. So if they're working harder to conserve energy, first of all, that's very key. And if they're also incorporating renewable energy, that is going to further offset their costs. What it means to us, well, sustainability is our business. So we actually provide clean, renewable energy capability to those businesses that will either offset or completely cover their energy use. So I think that's really what it's all about. If they're using less electricity from the grid, that, which has already been mentioned, means lower greenhouse gas emissions, because as we know, much of the power generation across the United States is from fossil fuels.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that answer. Now, moving right along. So, talking about practices that act as solutions to climate change, how can corporations become further involved in stemming the tide of climate change by implementing their own brand of goals and marketing plans? Nicolas, can you take that question? So, in terms of practices and that act as solutions to climate change, how can corporations become further involved in stemming the tide of climate change?
I'm sorry, whose question was it?
Nicolas, can you hear us?
Oh.
I think we're having trouble hearing you, Nicolas.
I'll jump in.
Thank you, Giselle.
A couple of things I wanted to address both questions, but sustainability in a business. Sorry, Nicolas, we can't hear you. Sustainability is really a lifestyle, and it's part of the culture of the company. So when you're talking about businesses, it's not just because you're a solar company or because you provide something that allows people to have a more sustainable lifestyle in their lives, right? So with EcoRigo, which was a company that I founded, the entire premise of the brand was that, you know, I wanted to help people be more green through their tummies, right? So while I was producing healthy food and lifestyle content, I was also giving eco tips and tips on how to buy more sustainably, you know, talk about organic foods, organic farming, organic wine, because I was pairing wine with food. I'm Vice President of Marketing at a company called Cook right now, and one of the functions of this company is that we want to reduce food waste by people understanding how to plan in a way that they're literally shopping for what they're going to eat. 30% of a household budget is 30% of the food budget in every home in this country is wasted. We throw away so much food. So, you know, that's part of what we do. But when I'm talking about culture in a company, I'm talking about having recycle bins at every desk. I'm talking about buying organic food for the office. I'm talking about really instilling a culture and a lifestyle in a company that translates outside of the workplace. So that, for me, is really what sustainability means in a business. It's building it from the ground up.
Thank you, Giselle. We really appreciate it. And I think a lot of the ways that you kind of really put it into action of things what, you know, regular Americans and Latinos across the country can do to make sure that you know, we're being environmentally friendly. Now, moving right along, why is it important for Latinos to lead the charge in going, you know, in being sustainable, embracing renewable energy that is efficient, and invest in a clean economy? Why is this important for Latinos, and why should Latinos care? Edwin, you want to take this question?
Sure. Thanks, and thanks for having me here today. Well, I mean, as you guys know, Latinos have been left out in many different industries throughout the years, and I believe from a critical mass standpoint, Latinos are still not well represented. And that creates a problem, not only because I think we'd be good at doing these jobs, and I think we are. I think folks all on this that are on this Google chat again represent leaders that are in the space. But more importantly, it's a job creation mechanism for our communities, right? I think there's a stat out there recently from McKinsey Group that states that the clean energy economy on its own is about $10 trillion. Right, so that's a lot of jobs, right, over the next few years. And as I believe Angela mentioned, you know, a lot of not only the U.S. but a lot of other countries are getting in on board, right? And this is another area where I think Latinos have an opportunity to lead, not only in the blue collar space, but also as owners of their own companies and leading new startups.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you. I appreciate it. Nicolas, are we able to hear you now? I want to get you in this conversation, but we weren't able to hear you before. No, we still can't hear you. But you know what? You're here with us. You're still part of the conversation. So let's continue here. So At a micro level, so this is another question that a lot of people were asking when we were looking at Twitter. And remember that people can ask questions using via Twitter or Facebook using the Twitter hashtag Voces for Climate and using the number 4. So at a micro level, what are some simple steps businesses, large or small, can adopt to do their part in reducing their carbon footprint in addition to investing in renewable energy sources? So what are some of the things that big corporations and small corporations can be doing? Joe, you want to take this question?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the easiest things they could do is to recycle more. It's already been mentioned. But if the recycling company is not offering them a way to save money by recycling more and throwing away less, then I think it's time you change your recycling company. They can switch to LED lighting throughout. If even the long fluorescent tubes that most businesses use, they make LED equivalents to those, and they're very easy to put in. You'd be simply amazed at the amount of money that can be saved by investing in that sort of thing. Also, LED lighting can pretty much pay for itself in no time, 2 years or less. So the investment is well worth the effort. And just energy conservation, if you have any control over your operating space as far as the construction, improve your building envelope. Insulation is one of the biggest things you can do. What you want to do is have your building space tested, see where you're leaking money from. You don't want to be bleeding money. Capture that conditioned space, keep it inside the building, and take every effort to save money. But I think the biggest thing that businesses can do, you talked about corporations earlier, is to really promote what they're doing, promote their sustainability, get out there, sponsor bills that would make sustainability more reachable for the rest of us. Corporations can be a big force. I think the Latino community can be a big force in making those sort of things happen.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Now, I wanna get Veronica in this. I'm curious to know Lyft being such a cool and hip corporation. I know a lot of young people follow Lyft, or they use Lyft either as drivers or as clients. So what are some of the cool things, or what are some of the initiatives that Lyft is doing to make this subject exciting and get people to participate?
Sure. Well, to kind of piggyback onto that last question, we have actually started working with companies around the country to help them promote using Lyft to get to and from work as really a commuter tool. And this has been amazing because I'll give you a great example. In Los Angeles, for example, LA Metro actually works with every employer in the city of LA that has over 250 employees, because they are mandated by the state to meet certain air quality standards for how many people are actually commuting to and from work. So by working with us, they can start to offer Lyft as another option to actually commute. And this is amazing because we have a new product right now called Driver Destination that we are testing in California that's doing very well. So as a person who is approved to drive on the platform, I can log into the app, put in the destination of where I'm going, and let's say I'm going to work, so I put in that destination. I will then only see requests from people who are going within that same location I'm going within like a mile of that same location or along my same route. So this is a huge game changer, right? Not only for the people who actually are the passenger, but for the driver as well. So we had one woman in LA who has a full-time job. She only drives on the weekends or after work. And when we launched Driver Destination, she started to use it. And in 2 days, she made $60 on her regular commute getting to and from work. So if you can think about like what that means for people's options to be able to free up that kind of time, especially as we think of like how horrendous traffic is in a city like Los Angeles, and the kind of resources they would free up, this is something that can really make a difference in a lot of people's lives.
Thank you, Veronica. That's great. That's a lot of cool initiatives, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, I wanna kind of get everyone together and talk about this from a personal perspective. I know we're all talking on this table because we're all passionate about climate change. We care about Mother Earth. We want to make sure that we leave Earth a better place for the future generations. So I kind of want to talk to you guys, and in just 1 minute each, just tell me why do you care, and why should Latinos care about this, and why is this so important? Edwin, you want to get this started?
Yeah, no problem. And I just wanted to, if I may, just add to the question on what businesses can do. Real quick, in many states across the United States, you're able to choose the supply of energy that you get at your home or at your business. I know this is not possible in California or places like Florida, but in a lot of other states, you can tell your utility that you want wind or solar energy just by clicking a button on their website or literally calling them up. And years past, it would cost you a premium to get that. But nowadays, it's about it's about even, maybe a cent or two more per kilowatt hour. But that's one very easy thing that everyone can do and can start again reducing those carbon emissions by pressuring these utilities to buy more solar and wind energy. I know that in Maryland we can do it, in DC we can do it, and in many other states. Real quick on my background, I've always been engaged in community development, urban development, and environmental justice, and I think it really stems from the time that I lived in Guadalajara when I was young. I mean, the standards, and I'm actually very excited, obviously, that Mexico finally is joining the charge with some better policies and standards. But back in the 90s, with NAFTA and a lot of things, the standards were horrendous, right? And and you see just cars without catalytic converters when I was growing up, and then you add, poverty and lack of education in the barrios, and you start looking for other outlets to make our communities better. And I gravitated towards energy because of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Giselle. You wanna tell us why is this important, and why should people care about climate change?
Well, we don't have enough time for me to talk about all this stuff.
Give us the 1 minute. Give us the 1 minute.
I'm playing. So I feel a moral imperative to educate, to make a difference, particularly about climate change, and as most of you already know, and my followers know, about food. Because you mentioned something earlier, and I will tell you this. I'm a Latina in tech. There aren't very many of us, right? And I'm in digital media and everything else, and I'm a chef as well, all of these things. Here's the thing about why it's important for Latinos to understand and really become aware of what's happening to our climate. Our community has the highest rates of diabetes in children. Asthma is all over the place and everywhere with our children. Big agro's policies, food policies in this country, affect what we put in the soil, what ends up in the water table, what ends up in the oceans, and all of that, because it is a holistic system, affects at the smallest level what we eat, what we put in our bodies, what's happening with the bees. It is so important for us to just start in a place that is small, which is at our table, right? Talk about it with your kids, learn about it, understand what to buy that is going to keep your family more healthy. And I think people get very afraid of contacting their Congress people, and it's so easy now online. So I would just suggest this, and I tell people to do this: just take one action. If it's one action in a week, take one action that makes you feel good about what you're doing on this planet. Whether it's, I think I'm going to buy organic apples today. Oh, I think I'm going to contact my congressperson. Lifestyle changes happen one step at a time. And as I like to say, little steps lead to big leaps. So, as I said, it is my moral imperative to raise my child in a way where she is also going to talk about what's happening, right? She is going to learn about recycling. I feel a moral imperative to come to my office and say, hey, you're going to recycle that. I feel a moral imperative to come to my office and bring my people organic teas, right, as opposed to not. So I just think that each person, if they take one action a day, a week, a month, whatever it is, that they can effectively make a difference across the board on a very grand scale. And it's incredibly important for Latinos because we are a monster population of purchasers, right? We're huge consumption and huge purchasers in our country, and it's only going to get bigger because we're growing as a community in this country.
Thank you, Giselle. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I want to remind our viewers that are watching to use the hashtag on Twitter, Voces for Climate, and actually use the number 4. We actually just got a question from Twitter, and the question is, how do we get Latinos to increase their use of renewable energy? Joe, you want to take that question?
Sure. I think that's a great question, by the way. I think what we have to sort of look at first is it's not just renewable energy. Renewable energy is part of a big picture. It's energy conservation. If we can get Latinos as a massive community, and everyone counts, if you can take energy conserving measures, like I mentioned before, switch to LED lighting wherever you can, seal up places in your home where the air is leaking through. If you can seal off and insulate that attic space, and that's going to be the biggest bang for your buck to hold in that conditioned air, whether it be cooling or heating. Those measures are going to not just save you money, they're going to make your living space much better, and it's an improved quality of life. And then renewable energy comes into it at that point. The more you've done on the energy conservation side, the less solar, for instance, you're going to need to make up the rest of your electricity bill. But I think the biggest thing that Latinos can do is get out and vote. We are a massive force. Put pressure on your legislators to provide more incentives, state-level incentives, federal-level incentives, to make renewables and energy conservation affordable to everyone. That's what we have to do. We can do it, but it's going to take action. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I think as we get close to ending the Hangout, I think you leave us with something very important, and I'll reiterate what you said, is the importance of getting out the vote and the importance of making sure that Latinos are voting in masses, make sure that we all put pressure on politicians across the country, because if we put folks in Washington that care about this and understand the implications that climate change have across the board and across the country and how Latinos get affected, I think that's the only way that we'll make sure that we can leave this earth a better place for future generations. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I hope that we can continue having these conversations with Voces Verdes and Latino Giant. These are incredibly important. Nicolas, we promise you to invite you next time, and we'll work on the technicalities. I'm sorry that we couldn't hear you, but we see you there. We see you. Everybody, make sure that we thank you, man. We appreciate it. I know that Nicolas has been critical supporter of Voces Verdes, obviously being on the board, but he has also, through his organization and the other initiatives that he's been doing, he's been incredibly helpful. But thank you guys so much for being a part of this. Continue following the conversations on Voces for Climate. This will be posted on the Voces Verdes website. It will be posted on the Latino Giant website. Let's continue having these conversations, and thank you everyone for being a part of this. Thank you.
Gracias a todos.